Hello, everyone. Rob Garcia back for another Mass Tangent with Kevin Leeper. And today we have our special guest, Marissa Mann from Verdesian. So would you like to introduce yourself, Marissa?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on today, guys. I'm Marissa Mann, and my official title is Director of Strategic Accounts here at Verdesian, of which Heritage is one of our strategic partners. But I also have a little bit of a diverse background. So I actually have my degree in agronomy, soil science. I've spent some time out in the row crop industry, being an actual agronomist. And the last 6 or 7 years, I've been in the manufacturing industry of plant nutrition.
What are some of the big products that Verdesian has and takes to market?
Yeah, so some of our biggest ones, primarily in a row crop industry or specialty crops, would be microsync, which is our homogeneous granular micronutrient product. We provide nitrogen stabilization products to help protect the environment and our growers' investments. We do the same thing with phosphorus, which is really important now along the coast as people battle like the red tides and things like that. So really just a lot of products that are meant to help investments, help protect crops, and provide the best nutrient use efficiency factors possible, as well as protecting the environment too.
Yeah, and we see a lot of that with one of our products that we get from you all in Gravity L38 Special with Takeoff. It's a phosphite product. We've had really good success with it. A lot of our guys like to talk about it and sell it, differentiate it in the market. But talk to us a little bit about phosphites, and especially the ones from Verdesian and 38 Special.
Yeah, so phosphites can be a very intricate world. There's a lot of hype out there. There's a lot of different products, a lot of sources on how you get phytes. So Verdesian's phosphites are really unique to the marketplace, especially with the Gravity 38 Special product, because it is stabilized. There are not a ton of products on the marketplace today that actually provide stabilized phosphites. And this is key for making sure that the product performs as we expect it to, as well as from an operational standpoint, making sure that it's the optimum tank mix partner. We're not going to increase risk of phytotoxicity or anything like that.
And what type of situations should somebody be considering using a phosphite, especially on turf and ornamental?
Yeah, so for turf and ornamental, phosphites particularly have really 3 different mechanisms, right? So they help the plant with nutritional needs. It helps the plant with its metabolism of those nutrients. And then it also has like a plant defense mechanism to it. So really anytime is a nice application for the Gravity 38 Special, because we're either trying to help overcome abiotic or biotic stress. So if we're getting some hot and dry temperatures, or you have some maybe disease pressure coming in, or if we just need that nutritional boost to help that crop have a stronger root system, a stronger leaf tissue biomass.
Rob, what are some of the conditions and situations that you've seen people use phosphites, especially 38 Special, out in the field?
You know, one of the biggest things I think is that as we come into the season, we start to get into the bulk, especially for golf courses, the Memorial Day to Labor Day, the key part of the season for a lot of the country. They know that just the very stress of the height of cut, all the golf, all the play that's going to go on, the usage of the course, that they're going to go under stress. So I see a lot of phosphites used as kind of a preventative way. And we also then see some of that disease suppression. That's just one of the benefits that's out there. But I think they start to use them now more and more. They know they're going to go under stress. They know they're going to dry conditions. They're going to reduce watering. They have to accommodate for play. So they just utilize the phosphites to help improve that overall stress management.
And because there's so many benefits to phosphites in the market, I'm sure there's just a long list of available products to our customers. Marissa, do you have any insights into other active ingredients and different phosphite products that might be in the market?
I do have a little bit of insight. A lot of it is just going to vary on the load of phosphites and the source of phosphite. So, are we talking like an ammonium phosphite? Are we talking about phosphoric acid? What are we talking about? And what is that load? And then again, from an operational standpoint, what is your application rate per acre? The other key to that is stability. I'll come back to that every day, all day, because if you have an unstabilized phosphite, we can have or enhance that risk of phytotoxicity, which is when, you know, your crop, specifically in this world, turf and ornamental, flashes white. And that is a very bad day. That's a scary day. Nobody wants to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're talking about stable phosphites, what is a stable phosphite and how does it different from a standard phosphite?
Yeah, so the stabilized phosphite, Verdesian uses a proprietary technology to stabilize it. And that really makes it, again, perform to its optimum capability without harming any of the plants and making it a nice compatibility for a tank mix partner. So that way, our folks on the turf aren't having to go out and make two different separate applications to get nutrients out there. And then the 38 Special, you can tank mix those together and not have any separation or deterioration of the tank mix partners that are in there. They both can perform very highly effectively.
So that's one of the problems is with a standard phosphite, you may have to make a standalone application. Otherwise, if you're applying other nutrients, you're going to have incompatibility in the tank, and it's just going to make a big mess.
Yeah, exactly. And time is money, no matter what world you're in. Yeah, so if you have to take the time out of your day to make 2 or 3 different applications just to get everything you need out on the course, that's not ideal.
And one of the things that I think we've seen over the last couple of years, especially, is that idea of the multi-product greens and tea tank mix, where we're going out every 2 weeks. So we're already on a tight interval. That's now transitioned out to the fairways. So now we have superintendents all over the United States that have summer foliar fairway programs. Again, now we're going from 3 acres or so to 30 to 40 acres of application. So the timing is essential, and they want to put as many products in the tank as possible. So that compatibility is huge when you can't make multiple monthly fairway applications just because you can't spray that much acreage over time.
Yeah, exactly. And when you use a standard phosphite with a lot of the normal tank mix partners, like the heavy metals like iron or copper or zinc, those really tend to separate out in a tank mix solution with an unstabilized product, which is why Gravity 38 Special is so special and unique in its phosphite alone, is that it does have that stabilization. You can tank mix it. We've even done studies where you've tank mixed it and let it sit for 10, 20, 30 minutes or longer, and you can see that it still stays in solution and there's no particle separation.
One of the questions that I get out of stabilization versus unstabilized conventional phosphites is that because it's stabilized, not only is it lasting and staying in solution better in the tank, does it also last longer? The effects last longer with the plant. And I get asked that question a lot when you look at the different types, because some of the depending on the form, again, some of them break down fairly rapidly in the environment. So those beneficial effects of that phosphite don't last very long.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So like an unstabilized, the half-life of it, when you spray it out there, it's exposed to the environment, the sun particularly, and it'll break down those molecules relatively quickly. So that's why having a stabilized phosphite, in addition to tank mixing and operationals and all those parts, help it perform to a higher standard, is because it's not going to half-life out as quickly. It gives the plant a little bit more of an opportunity to take in that phosphite over an extended period of time.
Okay. Another differentiator that you'll see in the market is whether or not the label is listed as a nutrient or a fungicide. So is it the same thing with the fungicide labels where you can have standard and stable phosphites, or is there anything additional benefit to using a fungicide label versus a nutrient label?
So, in my opinion, phosphites have, no matter what kind of route you're using, a nutritional or a fungicidal, phosphites, no matter what, do have some of that. I don't know how I want to call it, that plant defense mechanism, right? It'll kind of signal to the plant, hey, be armed and ready in case something does come up. We can help you attack whatever foreign mechanism is coming towards us. The primary difference is going to be usually the quantity of the phosphite in there. We ourselves at Verdesian have a separate product called Fungifite. And if you look at the label, it's actually listed as a phosphoric acid. And that one does have an EPA registration as a fungicide, where Gravity 38 Special does have phosphite in it. So it will have that similar plant defense mechanism style to it. It just doesn't have that EPA registration.
Got it. Is there standard and stable fungicide labels, or would they all be stable at this point in the game just because that's a better type of phosphite?
From my knowledge, just like the nutritional piece, there's standard and there's stabilized. So any of the phosphite technology from Verdesian is going to come stabilized, because we know that's a premium product to work with, and we know it has premium performance out in the field.
Do you have customers that prefer a fungicide label over a nutrient label, or is it just kind of, come down to a price sometimes, or is it built into programs? How would you respond to that?
I really think it's just about the needs, right? So some folks, even as I was touring around in Florida a couple months ago, some people want a phosphite that is fungicidally labeled. And other people are a little more lax. They don't necessarily need to have that EPA registration to make them feel confident in their phosphite's ability. So it's really going to range a little bit.
Gotcha. When it comes to the stable phosphites, are they offering any additional benefits to the plant itself? Are you getting better uptake? Is there a longer effect of the defense mechanisms?
Yeah, just like we were talking about, when you apply that phosphite out, when you get it out in an application, that sun in a unstabilized phosphite is going to break it down really quickly. So the performance of a standard product is going to be a little bit less than, right? It's whatever the crop can take up of that phosphite and utilize before the product essentially becomes null and void, because the sun disintegrates the product.
Got it.
Where a stabilized product is going to have a little bit longer longevity. So then that means that the plant is going to be able to metabolize it for longer. It's going to have more of those effects for an extended period.
Yeah, it's really good to know. And that goes to what Rob was saying earlier off the call was, you get conversations with customers and sales reps. Well, what else is beneficial about this product compared to some of the ones that maybe are newer to the market? There are benefits to using a stabilized phosphite, and you're going to see the better performance with the increase in cost. So when it comes to the 38 Special label and the amount of phosphite that is loaded in there, what do you have to say about our load of phosphite and how it might compare to others that are in the market?
Yeah, so the actual load in 38 Special is 38%, hence why we named it that. And I think from a competitive standpoint, it falls right within the realm of what you see as what I would consider standard. There may be a few out there that have a little bit higher phosphoric acid or phosphite analysis. But I think where Gravity 38 Special performs in that is because it is the stabilized phosphite. We can have a higher performance and longer longevity activity within that plant. And then it also combines the takeoff technology, which we haven't talked about yet. And all of that together creates a really low usage rate, which is great, especially when you are limited, when you're putting multiple tank mix partners out there and you can only run X amount of gallons per 1,000 square feet.
Are we limited on the amount of applications or interval? What would you say would be a good program to put together, amount per 1,000, so often, and how many times a year?
Yeah. So from what I'm understanding in the Florida market specifically, where I got to actually visit with some of these customers, is they're putting it on about every 2 weeks, which is great. I don't believe there's any limitation there. You just want to give that plant a little bit of time in between. And I think layering it in an application standpoint like that is really beneficial. Just like Rob said earlier, using it as more of a preventative tool, because we know whether you're doing ornamental or turf, you're going to have some type of stress, water stress, heat stress, people walking on it. Yeah, exactly. So if you can layer those applications and really be protected throughout the season and be prepared for any of those stressors that are going to come up.
And you did mention Takeoff. Why don't you go ahead and launch into a presentation about Takeoff and what is it? Where does it come from? What are the benefits to the product and the plants that you're treating, etc., stuff like that?
Yeah, so I really geek out about the Takeoff technology. It is, I'm going to say it's really underrated, and especially when you pair it with our stabilized phosphite, you produce just a really cool product. So the Takeoff technology was actually discovered or developed by the Los Alamos National Laboratory. So very prestigious. This isn't something that we just kind of pulled out of our magic hat. Very, very prestigious lab. And what I've found is that the marketing message, right, is that we're going to increase the metabolic efficiency of the plants that we're applying Takeoff to, which then helps them have a better output and create a stronger root system, stronger leaf tissue, really create this just a generally healthier plant with a higher nutrient metabolism usage. How in depth do you want to get? Because I can really geek out on this.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Marissa, this is probably when we added the Takeoff technology to the original formulation. It was at a time we were being very successful with 38 Special. Our salesmen were grabbing onto the product. They were understanding the stabilization. And so maybe we missed the message a little bit. I know when we were looking at that, that's when Aaron was still here, and Aaron and I, Verdesian sent us a large report, and I read through it. I called Aaron, and I read through it again, and I called Aaron. And I think that because of our success at that time, maybe some of our sales staff missed the message. And so we maybe haven't done a good job overall with the message. So go as long as you want, because that's probably one of the number one questions when we start to get into this differentiation between stabilized and unstabilized. And then we're like, hey, we have stabilized and we have the Takeoff technology added to the product. And I think so that message maybe hasn't gotten fully out there to the sales staff and to the customers on the Takeoff portion of that formulation.
Yeah, so the Takeoff is really, really important to why this formulation is so special. So in and of itself, Takeoff is a biostimulant product. So it's really working cohesively with the phosphite, right? The phosphite itself is offering some nutritional, some metabolism, some plant defense. And then you pair it with this biostimulant piece, and you've basically got a superhero plant. It is primed and ready, and it's performing at its peak. I like to say it is a biochemical mimicry product. Okay. So if we're really getting geeky, because what the Takeoff technology is doing is it's mimicking a molecule in the nitrogen assimilation glutamate pathway.
Glutamate. That's like the word of the day.
The nitrogen assimilation pathway. Yeah, glutamate pathway. Yeah. And so when we get, I'll throw up a little diagram here as we go
totally.
through this. But the actual molecule that we're mimicking is called 2-hydroxy-5-oxyproline. And so we can get real in depth. And this molecule is already being produced by the plant. So we're not putting in, anything synthetic weird. And that molecule helps that plant digest nitrogen and turn it out into things like proteins, amino acids, carbohydrates, all of those things that are responsible for healthy plant growth and creating a strong plant. So by kicking in more of that molecule, we basically turbocharge the plant's ability to take in nutrients, utilize them appropriately, and then output all of the things that we care about at the end of the day. Healthy roots, taking up more water, healthier nutrient analysis, pairing that with the phosphites with the nutrition, metabolism, plant defense system, you've got peak performance.
So looking at the glutamate pathway chart here, the takeoff technology is helping nitrogen in the plant. Is it beneficial to also add nitrogen into the tank with the 38 special so that you're adding more nitrogen as you're adding the takeoff?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend having a good nitrogen program with it. So whether that is done in advance or if you tank mix a little bit of nitrogen with it, it's definitely going to help keep up with the needs of that plant. So I like to say, when we apply takeoff, you're basically turning a me into a bodybuilder. And so all of a sudden, as you are training to become a bodybuilder, you need to eat more in order to put on more muscle. And so it's a very similar process with our crops, or whether it be turf or ornamental, that we want to feed it a little bit more to make sure that it has everything that it can possibly need for that proper output.
Do you know if there's certain times of the year where this takeoff mimicry molecule is in heavier supply in the plant, so maybe not as needed, or is it always needed and it doesn't matter how much takeoff you keep putting into the plant?
Yeah, it is always needed because that nitrogen assimilation, that glutamate pathway is going to be constantly running so long as our plants are alive and active. So if they're dormant, right, it's not going to take up really any nutrients. So at that point, maybe wait for it to come out of it in the spring or whenever you start making those initial applications. But so long as the plant is living and taking up water and nutrients, it's always going to be running that nitrogen assimilation.
Do you want to recap takeoff, the different benefits, just
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 main key points that people are going to see from using the takeoff technology?
Definitely. So takeoff is a biostimulant. It's going to help increase the plant's ability to utilize nutrients and turn those into the building blocks of plant cells. So proteins, amino acids, carbohydrates, which at the end of the day turns out to be a larger root mass system, a stronger, healthier leaf tissue system, just overall healthy. And that combined with the phosphites is again going to create just a very superior plant.
Does the addition of another fungicide increase the phosphite or the overall health of the plant,
Right. So I would say it's dependent on what disease that you're looking at. So definitely, like with our fungicide product, there are specific diseases where we say combine it with an active ingredient fungicide for the best control possible. So depending on your certain scenario, I would say there could be an advantage to actually pairing, an actual fungicide to that application.
Okay. Any other tank mix partners that you can think of that might be beneficial, whether it's a nutrient or, we talked about nitrogen, anything else?
Yeah, nitrogen, iron would be another good one to keep things really nice and green. So that combination together is going to be great. An actual fungicide, if you're encountering some of that disease suppression, to really take a twofold approach to helping your plant's defense system, Really, the options are limitless, just depending on what specific needs that you're looking for at that time.
In those tank mixes, when I look at those fairway applications, many of the products that you just talked about are in that mix. The other thing that goes into a lot of those fairway tank mixes with 38 Special and nitrogen source, some micronutrients from the Gravity line. The next thing is going to be growth regulators, Primo Max, Anu, those types of products. So I just wanted to get your perspective on do you see that as a beneficial? I do see, and I've had the comment made that because of that better nitrogen assimilation, that they don't have those color effects of the growth regulators after the application. They get the benefits, but they don't get the negative parts of the regulator applications.
Yeah, it definitely just helps the plant keep up nutritionally, because those growth regulators, are obviously going to impact, cell length or cell division, depending on what type you're using. So as we increase the plant's ability to take up those nutrients and supply the building blocks for those cells, we shouldn't get that lag in discoloration. We've done quite a few studies of takeoff paired with plant growth regulators, and that is very positive. They very much work together well in a systemic approach. So that's a great scenario to have.
Yeah, I would think, when you're constantly stressing turf, cutting it down and, adding something that's going to keep it healthier and fight off, potential disease and stuff like that, you're allowing for nitrogen to be used more efficiently. So the plant, even though it's being kept short, is able to stay healthier overall. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what's key about 38 Special. And then if you tank mix it with some of those nutritional needs and some of your plant growth regulators, the phosphite, the stabilized phosphite's going to provide that stress mitigator piece of this. Your takeoff is going to create the building blocks and nutritional uptake. And then your biostimulant or your plant growth regulator is going to help with that growth.
I think I've had some conversations with sales reps, their customers. I don't know if I want to spend the money on the 38 Special. You guys have a fighting brand phosphite, standard phosphite. I think I'll just probably go with that one. I'm like, well, hold on a second. That's fine. If you want to use that one, but maybe you should put like a case of 38 Special out so you can compare the two and see what the actual difference are on your course,
Yeah, absolutely. One of the comments that I got back from one of the ornamental customers I got to visit while I was out there is that if they missed the 38 Special in an application, they could visibly see the difference.
Really?
Yeah. And so they said, we make sure that goes in every single time. I mean, because they're on 2-week application scheduling as well. So yeah, if they miss an application, they're like, we can visibly tell a difference.
Yeah, that's good. So, people are going to see the differences, and there's a reason why it's a little bit more expensive, but you're getting the benefits of the takeoff, the stabilized phosphite, reduce labor by being able to tank mix stuff and go out and spray everything at once. So
yeah, it's a really, really neat package to have, both from an agronomic perspective as well as an operational perspective. It's just creating the best of both worlds.
Wonderful. Rob, did you have any final thoughts or comments for Marissa?
No, I think this was great. I think it's given us some clarity on how to differentiate 38 Special with takeoff from these other products in the market. And then also really gave us some good information on the other benefits of the product. And I think that's the biggest part that maybe we were missing in our message was, yes, okay, phosphite to phosphite. Okay, now, but we have all these other benefits and all these other things that make the product superior and also perform better in the tank. So I think a really good, clarifying some of the things that maybe we were missing when we put together our original 38 Special takeoff message.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing this product grow. I think as customers get it out on, either their turf or their ornamentals, whatever their, quote unquote crop might be, it's a lot of fun to see them get excited and see the difference in results.
I have, Marissa. I have done actually some, not a ton, but I've done some trial work with some large ornamental applicators. We do a lot of biostimulant based deep applications, large ornamental trees in fairly hard to grow climates up in the mountains and throughout our dry, arid, poor soils here in Colorado. And we're seeing very favorable overall increase in plant health. We've been doing some fall applications, and just our overall health of our ornamentals coming out of winter has been very favorable. So we're going to continue doing that. And I think we're seeing that there's some other uses for maybe 38 special that we hadn't originally looked at.
That's awesome. That's always exciting to hear. And the specialty of the 38 special formulation is really going to fit no matter what environment you're in. If you're encountering a lot of stress, that phosphites is going to take probably the heavier responsibility of the difference. But if you have great growing conditions and you're not encountering a lot of stress, that takeoff is going to be a primary. So no matter what environmental conditions you're facing, you're going to have a twofold product that's going to ensure that you see the results.
Perfect.
That's awesome. No, we've had a lot of great conversation with you today. Appreciate your time. I think now that we finally had you on a Mass Tangent episode, the Gravity L38 special sales are going to take off.
I appreciate a good pun.
Sorry, that was just a dad joke. That was a bummer joke. I shouldn't have said that.
I love it.
Thank you, Marissa.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate the time, and we'll look forward to watching this product line grow.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.